Benjamin Franklin spent 9 years in Paris, representing the newly formed United States of America as their first ambassador in effect. And during this time he befriended a young upcoming doctor, scientist and fellow humanist called Georges Cabanis. When Franklin returned to America, he gifted his sword to his young friend. Franklin was very much the father figure that Cabanis looked up to, and to have been given this great symbol, this very personal piece of personal effect, would have been a very, very important and poignant moment for the young man. Since that time, the sword has remained within the family and is today owned by Emmanuel and Ariane de Lepowski.
Both men were great figures of the Enlightenment. They met at Madame Helvétius' house, which was known as the House of the Intellectuals. Of the most prominent figures of the Enlightenment used to meet at Madame Helvétius' home, like Voltaire, Turgot, Mirabeau, and amongst these people, Franklin and Cabanis.
I think those two people were sharing very strong values. They were sharing the belief in democracy, which was not obvious at the time. They were sharing the belief in innovation, progress, and they were, I think, a little bit outside of the classic political box. You know, it's a great honor for us to have this object. It's not really an object, it's a symbol between two countries, two ideals, both on democracy and progress.
A court sword or dress sword was a gentleman's accessory. At the time we're talking about, late 18th century, it was part of a gentleman's attire and certainly would have been expected if you were attending official functions. Authenticating the sword, our main thrust was to try and backdate into the 1780s. We needed to work out why this sword in particular would have been placed in Franklin's hands in order for him to place it in Cabanis's hands. Stylistically, it was almost European in style, but not quite. So we started looking at the maker's mark, and it's at that point we identified Samuel Soumain, who had spent most of his working life in Annapolis, but had actually moved to Philadelphia and actually had been Franklin's neighbor. Once that fact had been established, everything fell into place.
I remember as a child, when my mother showed me the sword, I couldn't really comprehend or capture the very meaning of the sword at that time, but I could feel how important it was for my mother in terms of the value and what the sword represented for her and for her ancestors.